When I was 12 years old, my mom had finally started to trust me enough to leave me home alone. We lived in a quiet, peaceful town with calm streets, friendly neighbors, and a charming little village filled with shops and restaurants. It was the kind of place where you felt completely safe, not the type of town where you worried about walking alone at night. That's partly why my parents were comfortable leaving me home by myself at that age. It happened on a weekend. My older sister wasn't home for some reason, so instead of having my grandparents watch me like when we were younger, my parents decided I was old enough to stay alone for the night. My parents were young when they had us, so they were still very social, often going out on weekends with friends or taking small trips. They left me with $20 to order pizza for dinner, which honestly felt like the perfect night. The house all to myself, video games, and pizza. I was completely hooked on James Bond video games back then and was in the middle of playing Nightfire on my PS2, for probably the third time, when I decided to order my pizza. There was a local place called Gianni's, our usual spot, which sadly closed years ago. I ordered a plain pizza, knowing I could easily eat 3 slices by myself. My mom had told me to save the leftovers in the fridge wrapped in foil. While waiting, I swapped games and started playing another Bond game, Agent Under Fire. Not long after, the doorbell rang. I quickly grabbed the $20 my parents left and headed downstairs. My mom had instructed me to tip $4, which was pretty fair since the pizza place was only about 3 blocks away. When I opened the door, the delivery guy gave me a weird vibe right away. He looked like he was in his 30s, with a messy, long beard, glasses, and a black trucker hat. As he handed me the pizza and counted the change, he glanced past me into the house and asked, "You alone here?" The question immediately set off alarms in my head. My parents had always warned me about questions like that. Trying to play it smart, I replied, "No, my parents are on their way home," which in hindsight probably wasn't the best answer. I should have just said, "No." But I figured he was asking because there were no cars in the driveway, and it was a kid answering the door. I shut the door quickly after taking the pizza and went to eat in the kitchen. After finishing about 3 slices, I wrapped the leftovers and put them in the fridge like my mom told me to. Then I went back upstairs to keep playing Agent Under Fire. A few hours passed, probably around 11 p.m., when the doorbell rang again. Naturally, I assumed my parents were back, so I rushed downstairs. Without opening the door, I called out, "Mom! Dad!" But instead of their voices, a stranger responded, "Hey, I need help." The voice said he needed to use the phone. I asked, "Who is this?" But he just repeated that he needed a phone. I felt a cold wave of fear rush over me. I was too scared to look out the window, but instinctively knew opening the door would be a terrible mistake. As I backed away and started walking up the stairs, which faced the front door, the man pounded on the door and said, "Wait, please, I need help." That's when I realized he had seen me. I glanced back, and even though the porch was dark, I could make out the silhouette of his head. I couldn't see his eyes, but it was obvious he was staring directly at me. Panic set in. I sprinted upstairs to my parents' bedroom, the only room upstairs with a phone. I immediately dialed my mom's cell. I didn't have my dad's number memorized. My mom answered, and I could tell right away that she'd had a few glasses of wine. But when I told her there was someone outside asking to come in, her tone instantly shifted. She became super alert and serious. She asked if I had said anything to the guy, if I had let him know someone was home. I told her the truth. I asked who it was, and that's when she got even more concerned. "Does anyone know you're home alone?" she asked. That's when it hit me. The pizza guy. I explained that he had asked earlier if I was home alone. While we were on the phone, the doorbell rang 2 more times. I told her the guy wouldn't leave and was pounding on the door. My mom told me to stay put, lock the bedroom door, and wait. She and my dad were calling the police. She kept me on the line while using my dad's phone to contact 911. I could hear they had stepped outside the restaurant to get better signal. As we talked, I suddenly heard the side gate to the backyard open. Quietly, almost gently. I whispered this to my mom, who kept repeating, "Stay quiet, stay in the room, and keep the lights off." At one point I whispered, "What if he tries to come through the den window?" My mom told me firmly to stop talking and stay hidden. She was feeding me updates from the police, giving me their estimated arrival time. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not outside, inside. Someone was inside the house. I whispered frantically to my mom, and I heard her yell something to the police on the other phone, probably something like, "He's inside the house, hurry!" My mom told me to hide under the bed and stay silent. For 12-year-old me, this was the most terrifying, unreal moment of my life. The only thing separating me from whoever was out there was the small lock on my parents' bedroom door. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, walking past my sister's room and toward mine. They paused, probably checking the other bedrooms. Then they approached the master bedroom door. The doorknob turned, but thankfully it was locked. They tried it again, harder, as if they thought it might just open. Then, silence. A few soft knocks on the door followed, but the person didn't say a word. Another twist of the doorknob. Then I heard the footsteps slowly moving away down the hallway, back down the stairs, and deeper into the house. I stayed frozen under the bed, doing everything I could not to cry or make a sound. My mom whispered that the police were almost there but told me to stay hidden until they were inside. Suddenly, I heard heavy boots, several of them, and a loud voice calling my name, identifying himself as a police officer. My mom said it was okay to come out. I unlocked the door and opened it to find 2 officers upstairs and 2 more downstairs. Turns out, they didn't need to break down the front door because the backsliding door was wide open. They also found the den window slid open, which is probably how the guy got inside. I explained everything to the police, including my suspicion about the pizza guy, while my parents were still on the phone, racing home. By the time they arrived, only 2 officers were still at the house wrapping things up. The next day, my parents took me to Gianni's Pizzeria to point out the delivery guy. I didn't see him there, so they asked the manager which employee matched my description. The manager said it sounded like Phil, who was out on delivery. After my parents explained everything, the manager denied that it could have been Phil and asked us to leave. My parents made a scene, shouting that they'd never give them our business again. We even waited in the parking lot for nearly an hour hoping to catch the guy coming back, but he never showed. My parents suspected the manager tipped him off. They contacted a few lawyers afterward, but none would take the case due to lack of concrete evidence. In the end, we never returned to that pizzeria, and my parents didn't feel comfortable leaving me home alone for quite a long time after that. To this day, I'm convinced it was the pizza guy, or someone working with him. No one else could have known I was home alone that night,